Have you ever wondered how a speck of land can cause a rift between nations, even leading to military confrontations? The Gulf of Tonkin, a seemingly tiny patch of water, has been the epicenter of a major international dispute. This body of water, located off the northern coast of Vietnam and southern China, was the spark that ignited a long-standing conflict between the two nations. In the 1970s, the world was a chessboard of shifting alliances and geopolitical tensions. During this era, the Gulf of Tonkin emerged as a point of contention between Vietnam and China. The reasons were manifold, but the heart of the matter was the strategic importance of this waterway. To understand this, let's travel back to the early 1970s. Vietnam was in the throes of a war that had divided the world into two camps. On one side was North Vietnam, backed by the Soviet Union and China, and on the other was South Vietnam, supported by the United States. Amidst this backdrop, the Gulf of Tonkin, with its rich fishing grounds and potential oil and gas reserves, became a coveted prize. For China, control over the Gulf was not just about resources, it was also a matter of security. The Gulf of Tonkin provided a buffer zone for its southern provinces and offered direct access to the South China Sea, a major shipping route. Vietnam, on the other hand, saw the Gulf as an integral part of its territory. It was a vital fishing area for the Vietnamese, and the potential oil and gas reserves could provide a much-needed boost to its war-ravaged economy. As both nations asserted their claims, the Gulf of Tonkin became a hotbed of naval confrontations and diplomatic tussles. The dispute escalated, eventually leading to the Battle of the Paracel Islands in 1974, a direct military confrontation between China and South Vietnam. This was just the beginning. The dispute over the Gulf of Tonkin set the stage for further conflicts over the Paracel and the Spratly Islands, turning this region into one of the most disputed territories in the world. As we can see, a seemingly tiny patch of water can stir up a storm in international relations. Moving from the Gulf of Tonkin, let's sail to the Paracel Islands, another hotspot in this intricate dispute. Nestled in the azure waters of the South China Sea, the Paracel Islands, known as Xisha in China and Hoàng Sa in Vietnam, have been a bone of contention between these two nations. While the islands might seem insignificant on a map, their strategic location and potential wealth of natural resources make them a coveted prize. The Paracel Islands dispute dates back to the colonial era, but the real drama unfolded in the 70s. Vietnam, then divided into North and South, held control over the islands. However, in January 1974, China launched a military offensive, resulting in a brief but fierce naval battle known as the Battle of the Paracel Islands. China emerged victorious, seizing control over the entire archipelago. This incident not only strained Vietnam-China relations but also had wider geopolitical implications. It further complicated the already intricate South China Sea disputes, involving other nations like the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei. It also highlighted the increasing assertiveness of China in the region, a trend that continues to this day. The aftermath of the battle saw a series of protests and diplomatic maneuvers. Vietnam, despite its loss, has never relinquished its claim over the islands. The Vietnamese government continues to assert its sovereignty, citing historical evidence and international law. On the other hand, China maintains its stance, dismissing the Vietnamese claims and reinforcing its presence in the islands. The dispute over the Paracel Islands also has implications for maritime security and freedom of navigation in the South China Sea. It's a crucial waterway for global trade, and any disruption could have severe economic consequences worldwide. The Paracel Islands, a paradise in turmoil, remain a contentious issue even today. The saga of these specks of land in the vast ocean reflects the complexities of territorial disputes and the lengths countries will go to in asserting their claims. While the islands themselves may be small, their impact on regional stability and international relations is immense. Now, let's delve into the archipelago's role in the Vietnam-China border dispute. The oceanic expanses of Southeast Asia are dotted with numerous archipelagos, which have become a bone of contention between China and Vietnam. These clusters of islands, though small, hold immense geopolitical and economic significance, sparking a fierce tug-of-war between the two nations. The archipelagos in question are not just simple landforms in the middle of the sea. They are strategic points of control, gateways to major shipping routes, and potential treasure troves of natural resources. With the South China Sea being a crucial conduit for global commerce, control over these archipelagos equates to power over trade. Beyond the commercial aspect, these archipelagos are believed to sit atop vast reserves of untapped oil and gas. With the global demand for energy ever on the rise, these potential reserves make the islands all the more enticing. China, with its rapid industrial growth, has a voracious appetite for such resources, while Vietnam too seeks to secure its energy future. The Paracels and the Spratlys, two of the most disputed archipelagos, have been at the heart of the conflict. China's claim, based on historical usage, has been vehemently contested by Vietnam, who asserts its own historical and legal rights over the islands. This has led to a number of confrontations, both diplomatic and militaristic, which have only served to deepen the divide between the two nations. The international community has been watching these developments with trepidation. The potential for conflict in such a volatile region, coupled with the involvement of global superpowers, has raised concerns about the stability of the region. The United Nations, in particular, has called for peaceful negotiations and respect for international law, but these calls have often been drowned out by the clamor of national interests. These archipelagos, coveted for their resources, have only added fuel to the already burning dispute. Last but not least, let's journey to the Spratly Islands, where the dispute takes on an even more complex dimension. The Spratly Islands, a cluster of more than 100 islets, reefs and atolls, are another hotspot in the South China Sea dispute. This time, however, the contention is not only between Vietnam and China, but also involves several other nations including the Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei and Taiwan, each claiming sovereignty over parts of this archipelago. Why, you may ask? Well, the Spratly Islands sit atop significant oil and gas reserves and are located in crucial shipping lanes, making them a strategic prize for any nation. For Vietnam and China, the islands are seen as an extension of their territorial waters, underpinning their economic and security interests. China's claim over the Spratly Islands is based on historical grounds, asserting that Chinese fishermen have been operating in the area for centuries. Vietnam, on the other hand, points to French colonial maps and international law to back its claim. The Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei and Taiwan all have their own historical and legal arguments, adding layers of complexity to the dispute. The Spratly Islands have become a stage for a series of standoffs, with nations building airstrips, deploying military personnel, and even creating artificial islands to reinforce their claims. China, in particular, has been assertive, leading to heightened tensions with Vietnam and other claimants. This dispute over the Spratly Islands is more than just a regional issue. It reflects the bigger geopolitical dynamics at play, with the United States and other global powers taking sides. The South China Sea dispute is a test of international law, the balance of power in the Asia-Pacific region, and the resilience of multilateral institutions. From the Spratly Islands, we see how a dispute can spiral into a complex web of international tension. So, how have these disputes shaped the relationship between Vietnam and China, and what's the ongoing impact on the global stage? The territorial disputes over the Gulf of Tonkin, the Paracels Islands, the archipelago, and the Spratly Islands have served as a significant point of contention between Vietnam and China since the 1970s. These disputes have left an indelible mark on their bilateral relations, often casting a shadow over their economic cooperation and diplomatic ties. The Gulf of Tonkin, with its rich fishing grounds and oil reserves, has been a bone of contention, sparking off naval confrontations and diplomatic standoffs between the two nations. The Paracels Islands dispute, on the other hand, has been a paradox of sorts, with both nations claiming sovereignty and indulging in a game of geopolitical chess. The archipelago agitation and the Spratly Islands spat have further complicated the situation, with overlapping claims not only from Vietnam and China, but also from other Southeast Asian nations. These disputes have led to a volatile situation, often escalating into military confrontations and diplomatic wrangling. Fast forward to the present day, and the situation remains as complex as ever. The disputes have not only strained Vietnam-China relations, but have also had far-reaching implications for international relations. The South China Sea, with its strategic significance and abundant resources, has become a hotbed of geopolitical power play, drawing in global powers like the United States and Russia. These disputes have also brought to the fore the complexities of international law. Despite a 2016 International Court ruling against China's 9-dash line, the disputes continue, underlining the challenges in enforcing international law in such complex situations. As we navigate these troubled waters, we realize that the Vietnam-China border dispute is not just about lines on a map, but a testament to the complexities of international law and geopolitical power play.